With more rumors stacking up for the Chicago Bulls between Jalen Duren, Walker Kessler, and some draft rumors, it's time that we play Facts or Cap again. We're going to play Facts or Cap. Could Walker Kessler actually be upset with the Utah Jazz, which opens up the door for the Chicago Bulls to put out a big offer sheet for them? Should they even do that? That's a possibility. The Bulls are also rumored to be one of the teams that could put a big offer sheet on Jalen Duren, but that makes sense considering almost everybody's saying that the Detroit Pistons are going to match any offer sheet for Jalen Duren. We're going to talk about all those things. Plus, we're going to talk about my dream draft class pairings at number 4, number 15, and pick number 38 in this draft. It's a dream, so it may not happen, but I'm going to talk about why it would probably be one of the best draft classes for the Chicago Bulls. We're going to get into all that plus more right after this. What's going on, Bulls fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bulls Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related. I'm the host here, Haize, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at Bulls Central Pod on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that said, let's go into this content for today, y'all. So this is Facts or Caps. This is where we separate the smoke from the fiction and from the reality of what's really going on here, right? So there's now rumors that are popping up that Walker Kessler could be upset with the Utah Jazz because of the Jazz's handling of not only his restricted free agency, but a big part of his career, right? When you look at what's happened with Walker Kessler since he's been a member of the Utah Jazz, they literally have been tanking the whole entire time he's been there, which has given them this injury-prone label that may not actually be true, right? Like, yes, last season, his season did end due to a legitimate injury, and there's just no way that you can say that did. That was a legitimate injury. Now, that is the same injury that Ayo Dosunmu had that ended his season a few years ago, and he made 100% recovery. Athletes usually make 100% recovery from that injury. But one of the stigmas that's on Walker Kessler is that the number of games that he's missed over his career. And for anybody that's really paid attention to the Utah Jazz, you know that they've been tanking that whole entire time. Thus, there's a big portion of the games that he missed, or more so the Utah Jazz holding him out because of their desire to tank, right? Which then has dropped his value. Now, reportedly, they offered him a 5-year, $140 million contract, which was rejected, and that has now opened the door to a lot of conversation in regards to, hey, what is actually going on here with the Utah Jazz and Walker Kessler and him being upset? That's an offer of $28 million annually. Keep in mind, we had initially heard that their cap to offer him was $30 million annually, which started the whole initial thing. So now I know that cap space is a concern. They have Lauri Markkanen, they have Kyle Filipowski, they just traded for Jaren Jackson Jr. Last year's trade deadline as well. They have a top pick in this draft also where they could add another forward or a guard. And so now it raises the question on, is Utah playing hardball with Walker Kessler, and could this legitimately open the door? If their cap for him is truly $30 million, and we've always questioned that, but now with this rumored offer of $140 million over 5 years, it actually adds a lot of legitimacy to that, right? So the Bulls, who have rumored to be in this draft, kind of more focused on guards and forwards, right? The forward at number 4, and then a bunch of guards that have been on their draft list who they've worked out and stuff like that. Could that lead them to offering Walker Kessler, who still would fit their timeline because of age? Would that realistically lead them to putting out a big offer sheet for Walker Kessler? And here's my thought process on it. The Bulls have no long-term bad money other than Patrick Williams. That's the closest thing to long-term bad money that you have, and it's only a $19 million contract, right? So it still has tons of flexibility. The Bulls could offer Walker Kessler a $32 to $33 million contract and then still have money to take on bad contracts like a lot of Bulls fans want. They still could have money to do that. So they could add in this draft a forward and a guard of the future, add their center of the future, 24-year-old Walker Kessler, who will turn 25 before the start of the season, but still a 25-year-old Walker Kessler to go along with a 24-year-old Josh Giddey as kind of the older veterans on the team, with having young pieces in the 4 pick, the 15 pick, the 38 pick, and Miles Buzelis, and Leonard Miller, and Noa Essengue, right? So it could be like Walker Kessler is one of the players that fit the Bulls' timeline. So in Facts or Cap, could this realistically happen? I'm actually leaning towards facts. If this is how the Utah Jazz are going to handle Walker Kessler, then yes, the Bulls could put a big offer sheet out on Walker Kessler, even giving a little bit of overpay. Now, I would say that you kind of want to keep the deal, even if you overpay more at like 3 years, because then it would overlap with Josh Giddey's contract coming off around. It would be a year after Manas Buzelis needs his contract extension, a year before like Noa Essengue, if he gets one, would need a contract extension. I think Walker Kessler would instantly give the Chicago Bulls rim protection, size, and a defensive identity that they do not have right now. So I say this, Walker Kessler isn't just a random rumor. This is a player that we've heard that the Bulls could be interested in for going over a year now. And now that there hasn't been a change in the front office in Bryson Graham, that could change it absolutely. But I still think that he could fit what the Bulls are doing. So my verdict on this is facts. This actually could happen. Now, when you look at, let's move into the next rumor, that the Bulls could be one of the teams that are in on Jalen Duren and offer Jalen Duren a big offer sheet. And my opinion on this one is a little bit different than what it was early in the season. Many would know early in the season, before Jalen Duren had his breakout year, I said that the Bulls could offer an offer sheet for Jalen Duren. Then, of course, he had the bad playoff run, which opened that door back up. But this one comes from John Hollinger, who says this directly. The Nets and the Bulls will be in the mix with offer sheets ready for Duren if the Pistons can't reach an agreement before free agency. My verdict on this, though, is it's cap. It's widely reported that the Pistons are going to match any offer sheet that Jalen Duren gets because they just can't afford to lose him. They aren't in a position to replace him with any type of meaningful talent that can bring the double-double machine that he was. And while, yes, he had a bad playoff run, one bad playoff run for a player that young doesn't all of a sudden change the value that you saw and the growth that you saw in the regular season. It just means it's another hurdle that he's going to have to overcome in learning how to play playoff basketball better. So and on top of that, even if not, I don't think that Bryson Graham, I think Bryson Graham is too smart to have his free agent money wrapped up in a player that the Pistons are likely to match anyway. And it's a division rival, so they could say, we're going to take all 3 days to match your offer just to see if any other free agents get off the board. I don't think Bryson Graham's going to do that. AK may have done something like that. Bryson Graham, no. The Pistons are likely to match this. And while I do like Jalen Duren and definitely what he did during the regular season, I think that this would feel more like an old AK style move than a Bryson Graham move. Bryson Graham is going to move diligently. He's going to move intentionally. And I just don't see him falling into the trap of a team that it's widely reported by everybody that they're going to match whatever Jalen Duren gets. So Jalen Duren is the type of players that fans should like, again, based off his regular season, but it does not mean that the Chicago Bulls should allow their cap space to be held hostage by a divisional opponent in the Detroit Pistons when it's likely they're going to match that up anyway. So I say cap on this one. Next up, a rumor that's popped up over the last couple of days is that the Chicago Bulls have floated Noa Essengue with the number 15 pick to move up. Here's what I'm going to say in this one. This makes sense because the Bulls are likely to draft a forward at number 4. It's just likely. Cam Boozer, Caleb Wilson, those are the guys that are likely to be added in number 4. When you look at the Bulls' forward rotation after drafting one of those guys, you're going to have, I'm just saying Caleb Wilson for the nature of this conversation. Caleb Wilson, Manas Buzelis, Leonard Miller, right? You're still going to have Leonard Miller in the mix there as well. And then you would have Noa Essengue. That's 4 forwards that you would have to put developmental minutes in. Now, luckily, the Chicago Bulls are in a position where they can throw a lot of developmental minutes. But it's not outside the realm of sense for the Bulls to say, hey, we got 3 forwards that we're going to develop, right? And then we still got Jalen Smith as a veteran forward that we can play. Let's space out some of our developmental minutes. Let's move Noa Essengue and pick number 15 to get the guard that we want. I say that it's facts that they called on this, right? That's something that they may have floated around, but just because it's facts that they floated it around does not mean that it's facts that it's going to happen, right? Calling doesn't necessarily mean that Noa Essengue is going to be gone. It just means that they're doing their due diligence to search around the league to find the value, but I don't think they're going to find that value. Well, I don't think a lot of teams are going to be in it because Noah is such an unknown commodity. So I think that the Bulls are going to likely keep him, and I think that it could end up working out that Noa Essengue actually fits this team in the future as well as that guy, especially if he grow and put on some age because of his defensive ability and his ability around the rim and not needing the ball a lot. I think that all can really help for this team. So facts doesn't mean that it's actually going to happen. I do believe that there were some precursor calls made in regards to that one. The last topic in facts or cap, though, Kingston Flemings is the Bulls' real target if they move up. Here's some of the structure behind this one. Kingston Flemings has only worked out for a few teams, one of those including Chicago, which does show that there is a real mutual, at least, interest in that, right? The Bulls clearly have their eyes on guards in this class. I don't think that anybody can deny there are absolutely guards in this class that the Bulls are focused on and that they see some value in, right? Calling him the only target, though, feels a little bit too strong in this case. I do think the Bulls are looking at several guard options in this class, and I don't think they're zeroed in on just one, that even being Keaton Wagler either. So I don't think that that's really what they're looking at. So not to say that Kingston Flemings could not be on their board. I do think that the Bulls are going into this saying we have the capability of moving up if we feel like one of our targets is not going to fall. But if it does look like they're going to fall at us at 15, we're perfectly happy staying at number 15 too. That's the read that I personally get on it. So I do think that Kingston Flemings is definitely on the board, but I don't think he is the board, right? So I'm going to say cap on this one. I'm not saying he's the only target. He could be a target with that. But that brings us to the end of caps, factor caps. Let me know how you guys feel about facts or cap, and what rumors do you think is facts or more cap? Let me know that down below. With that said, let's move into the next topic. My dream draft class. Like, I've been doing these draft class pairings, and we're going to get back to the more realistic draft class pairings, but I want to talk about my dream draft class for this Bulls team. And I think this is a very balanced draft class, and maybe a lot with you. This is not just 3 picks. I'm looking at how you truly reset the identity of the Chicago Bulls with this draft class. So my dream draft class for the Chicago Bulls is Caleb Wilson at number 4, Cameron Carr at number 15, Tarris Reed at number 38. That's what I'm looking at, and I think even you can use 38 and 56 to move up. Now, Tarris Reed may not be there, but we'll talk about the reality of this team, of these pieces being here for the Bulls. But I think when you look at it, Caleb Wilson at number 4, not only is the most likely player to be there at number 4, but I also think he's somebody that wants to be a Chicago Bull. I think we've seen that. He brings the size, he brings the length, he brings the athleticism, and he brings the physicality as well. Not to say that slap means everything, right? I also think that it gives Tiago Splitter a long athletic forward that he can develop on, and a defensive identity that the Bulls just have not had on this team. The Bulls have not had a defender, the elk and the potential of Caleb Wilson in so long, right? Caleb Wilson is the Bulls saying that we're done being small, we're done being slow, and we're done not being a tough defensive team. Caleb Wilson brings that ideally and immediately for the Chicago Bulls. He brings that front court ceiling. He brings that star level upside for it when it comes down to it as well. And I think that this says a lot about what the Bulls are bringing and trying to do in that regard. And Tiago Splitter was partially brought in because of his history of player development, and developing Caleb Wilson is going to be absolutely perfect for that team. He brings the size. He brings all that type of stuff that you want. And I also thinks that as a former big as well, Tiago Splitter fits Caleb Wilson fits the way that Tiago Splitter likes to develop, and that goes hugely for the Chicago Bulls. Pick number 15, Cam Carr. Now, I know there are going to be tons of people that type, oh my God, Haize, Cameron Carr is not going to fall at number 15. Here's the thing. There are about 10 legitimate players in this draft that people say aren't going to fall at number 15. Guess what? Somebody's going to fall, right? And so maybe that's not Cameron Carr. Cameron Carr has not worked out for a single team after the draft combine. And so there's a realistic chance he already has a promise in the lottery, and that's why he's not working out for teams. But listed at 6'6", 7'2" wingspan, and 8'10" standing reach as well, averaged 19 points, 5.8 rebounds, 2.6 assists as well, a 61% true shooting percentage as well. He set a single season record for Baylor. This guy fits the Bulls roster so much as a two-way player that doesn't need the ball a lot to still be effective on both sides of the ball. He brings wing size, real length, vertical athleticism as well, shot making, and defensive end. You talk about adding Caleb Wilson and Cam Carr, you have 2 players that can switch and guard 3 to 4 positions in the NBA. That does so much for you. And you talk about like how Tiago Splitter had Tamari Kamara, Drew Holiday, right? Donovan Clingan. Like, he had multiple defenders. That can go a long way in that for the Bulls to have players like that as well. I think that he also fits the structured freedom that Tiago Splitter likes to coach with, right? Because, Tiago Splitter's offense is based off players read, spacing, and reacting fast. Is that Cameron Carr, because of his off-ball shooting mechanics and off-ball shooting gravity, fits into that perfectly, while you have players like Modest and Josh Giddey who are going to be on ball a little bit more, right? And I do think that the role for Cameron Carr is going to be open or simplified very early. He's going to be a corner shooter, a mover, and a slasher, and somebody who runs in transition while being a weak side defender and an on-ball defender in the NBA level. I think that goes great for the Chicago Bulls. And then Tarris Reed at pick number 38. Now, this is a player that, anywhere, some people have him going right outside the lottery, like as high as number 18 or 19. Some mocks still have him going in the second round. I do think he's listed as 6'10", 260 pounds, 14 points, 9 rebounds, 2 blocks per game as well. In 27 minutes per game, he's also efficient. 61% from the field also when it comes down to that one, right? The type of production that he brings, when you look at his per 36 numbers, 19 points, 11 rebounds, 3 assists, and 2.6 blocks. That's real physicality. That's real upside. That's real rebounding. He sets screens very hard as well. a real paint presence also when it comes down to it. I think that I love this fit also for Tiago Splitter because Tiago understands how to develop physical big centers. And Tarris Reed will instantly become that type of two-way big that plays out a lot of those roles and positions for the Chicago Bulls. I think that he brings something. So when you look at this, what does everybody bring into this team? Caleb Wilson, front court upside piece, the athleticism, the defense, the rim protection. Cameron Carr, your athletic scoring wing that brings shooting, shot making, the length on that outside, the versatility defending wise, and he doesn't need the ball to be effective, right? Then you look at Tarris Reed, that physical center, the rebounding, the hard screen, some of that dirty work that doesn't always show up in the stat sheet. Tarris Reed can bring that. This draft class would bring the Chicago Bulls a front court cornerstone in Caleb Wilson. That is a long-term pairing with Matas Buzelis, a upside swing in Cameron Carr, and your physical big in Tarris Reed that we have missed for so long. Now, does Tarris Reed end up turning into a starting level center? Maybe, maybe not. But I'll tell you this, if you pair that with what we talked about earlier, if you are able to add Walker Kessler in free agency and Tarris Reed in the draft, that is true identity. You would then have the defensive pieces of Tarris Reed, Walker Kessler, Caleb Wilson, Cameron Carr, Matas Buzelis growing as a defender as well. And you're still hoping that Noa Essengue is going to give you some minutes, especially with his weak side defense and his shot blocking as well. The Bulls, one of the Bulls' biggest weaknesses was rim protection and paint defense. That can automatically turn into a strength for the Chicago Bulls if they were to do those things. Now, that's me pairing free agency and this draft class, but I think that this would be one of the most balanced draft class that you can have. It sets the Bulls up to build around traits and not just positions as well. Also, I do think that it puts a lot of pressure on like Josh Giddey as the creator, right? Nobody in this draft class is the heavy on-ball player that's going to dominate the ball, which means that Josh Giddey, his shots are going to go down, which a lot of people actually want to see. Rather than averaging 20 points per game, maybe it's more like 15 to 16 with 10 to 11 assists, maybe even 12 assists with the team that we would have, and 9 or 10 rebounds. It puts you in that position, but it puts a lot of pressure on Josh Giddey. And I'll say for this much as well, also for Tre Jones, as those half-court creators for the Chicago Bulls that need to get the ball to these guys and get these guys involved in the game. It puts Josh Giddey in a position where his best attributes come out and are needed for this team at that point in time. Now, the Bulls could still pivot later if they decide to or need to, but I think that it fits with Josh Giddey. It also is an amazing fit for Matas Buzelis. Bringing in a long-term front court partner in Cameron Wilson, bringing in a defensive big, a switchable big as well in Tarris Reed. This is the type of thing that, but the Caleb Wilson and Matas Buzelis front court will give the Chicago Bulls so much hope and a cornerstone piece that they have not had. Now, still a lot of eyes on Matas and how he develops in year 3, but I think it really works out. You're looking then at a potential starting lineup, and I don't know if Tarris Reed ends up starting, right? Like I'm admitting that second round picks, you never know, but potentially of Josh Giddey, Cameron Carr, Matas Buzelis, Caleb Wilson, and Tarris Reed. Now that puts a huge emphasis on Cameron Carr to be a really good shooter right away, and Matas Buzelis to be a really good three-point shooter as well, continue growing as he has as a three-point shooter. Puts a lot of emphasis on that, and Josh Giddey's off-ball shooting to keep defenses honest, because the spacing could get a bit crowded with that lineup. But I think that as well. I think even Noa Essengue fits in as a player that can play the 3-4, maybe a little small ball 5 right now, but to bring in that forward that can play a lot and just focus and simplifies his role as well. This draft class is the Bryson Graham draft class as far as that slap centerpiece. When you look at it, again, not everything's based off slap. I hate that everybody's made everything about slap as well, but I also think this fits Tiago Splitter's coaching style as well. This connects this draft class with what we already have here, and you're trying to build it. Cameron Carr under Splitter, Carr needs role clarity. Splitter's going to provide that, but also, again, that structured freedom that Tiago Splitter likes to coach with, and that's there. The biggest concerns, though, about this class is, like I said, it puts a lot on Josh Giddey and Tre Jones as to be actual point guards to actually run the offense, get these guys the ball in transition and in the half court to actually be that maestro of the half court offense, right? It's there for that. And I'll say this as well. It puts a lot of pressure on Dillingham if Bryson Graham and Tiago Splitter actually plan on playing Rob Dillingham minutes in this one, and it's there. I do think this as well. The Bulls still don't have a late clock creator, right? Like that go out there and get done. That's probably going to end up being Caleb Wilson, and you hope that Matas is going to step into that role. But there's that clear-cut go and get a bucket in crunch time guy. You're going to have to see who develops into that guy. Could be Cameron Carr, it could be Caleb Wilson. and Modest could develop into that as well. But I do think it helps in that area as well. It does give you a secondary creator, though. I think Cameron Carr also has more creation ability than people really give him credit for. And one of the biggest issues as well is that spacing. The spacing become a tight squeeze there for the Chicago Bulls. If Modest, Josh Giddey, and Cameron Carr aren't really good shooters next year, it can get that as well. I say this too, Cameron Carr, of course, the momentum. This guy that initially was picked to be in the 20s, now that he hasn't worked out for teams, I do think that there's a chance he could be going in the lottery and have a promise there. But that's, speculation. We'll see in that one. And then Tarris Reed may not make it to 38 as well, right? But this is a dream draft class for me because it gives the Bulls identity. It gives them a star-level upside in Caleb Wilson. It gives them a upper echelon role player potentially in Cameron Carr if he works out, and maybe even more than that. And it gives you Tarris Reed, who really changes the physical identity of what the Chicago Bulls have been. This draft class, I think if you come out of this 2026 draft class with Caleb Wilson, Cameron Carr, and Tarris Reed, it's not just about 3 new prospects. It's about adding real identity to this team with a style of play that fits your coach and players that actually fit together on the court. You have to still draft with how players are going to fit in mind, in my opinion. And I think that it gives the Bulls a lot of that potentially that they need and that what we've been lacking with the structure. But let me know what you guys think down below. Do you think I'm off my rocker? Do you think that this is too much of a dream draft class? Or do you think, how do you feel if this was the draft class for the Chicago Bulls? How would you walk away from the 2026 draft with this class? I want to hear from you guys on that one. I want to hear from you guys also on Facts or Cap. Do you believe that Walker Kessler could become a real option for the Chicago Bulls, considering the things that are going on with the Utah Jazz? And do you think that Caleb Wilson, Cameron Carr, and Tarris Reed will be a draft class that you can get fired up about as Chicago Bulls fans? Drop your thoughts in the comment section down below. Make sure you guys like the video, subscribe to the channel as well. Hit that notification bell so you never miss an episode or an upload. You can follow us at Bulls Central Pod on every social media platform. You can send us your questions, comments, concerns, bullscentralpod@gmail.com. And lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-270-2799. We are the #1 spot for everything Chicago Bulls related, but that is thanks to you, lovely and beautiful people. And like I like to end every episode on, go Bulls. Love you guys. See you right if you can, y'all. Peace.
This has been a presentation of Breaks